In my hand, I have the brand new, highly anticipated and also pretty hyped Google Pixel 8 Pro. In this video, we'll see what's new about it, if it's any good, if it's worth it to upgrade from last year's model, or if it's rather a lackluster, yearly incremental update. What are you doing? This is not the right place. No, stop. But I'm here to put to bed that last part of the question at least. This has been my daily driver for a couple of weeks now, and the last thing I'd say is lackluster. It's really been a joy to use, and you will be excused if from the outside you will be like, yeah, it looks the same, because yeah, it kind of does, but that's the thing, that this visor is now part of Google's aesthetic, and I think it's here to stay. And honestly, I love it because it fulfills a practical purpose, the entire camera system being fitted in here. So I think it's actually a pretty smart use of space. So yeah, that is unchanged, but pretty much everything inside has been updated, and I think it's one of the rare occasions when Google has been throwing a lot of hardware at the smartphone issue and not just software. But so, what is new inside it? First of all, it's not hardware, but still very important if you plan to keep your phone for any long period of time. Google has promised 7 years of software support and updates, and that is a massive promise. One which I hope they will keep, and also that is the longest time out of any phone manufacturer out there. The design might look very similar, but there are actually some subtle differences with this one, for the better, for sure. The 8 Pro now has a frosted glass back. And I really love the matte black look on this one. But also there's a cool light blue called Bay and the porcelain one, which is kind of white. And it's pretty impressive how much more fingerprint resistant it is now. Nothing. What's not as resistant is the polished aluminum frame and bar, which I have a feeling will scratch pretty easily, so I'd still recommend a cover or skin. But more importantly, and to many people's delight, the screen is now a flat one, and honestly it feels great. The Corning Gorilla Glass Victus 2, by the way, only has the slightest of rounded edges, but yeah, it's nothing compared to before. Which makes your finger run off of it very nicely. And you might not notice right away, but the corners of the screen are now more rounded and match the UI of the phone perfectly, and it just feels better in a human hand and less boxy than the 7. And since we're on the screen topic, I've left the best for last. The Pixel 8 Pro now has one of the brightest, if not the brightest, displays on the market, with 2400 nits peak or 1600 sustained, especially in HDR content. That makes it very, very bright. It is a 6.7 inches 120 Hz LTPO OLED, which also now has a variable refresh rate from 1 to 120 Hz. That is pretty cool, because not only you have very fluid movement on the screen with the 120 Hz, but it can also go down to 1 Hz when it's a static image to preserve some extra battery. Google calls it the Super Actua display, and all the fancy branding aside, it is an all-around amazingly beautiful screen to look at, especially with HDR content, and probably one of the best one on the market. All in all, it feels like a real flagship now. The rounded corners, the slim bezels, the display, the hardware overall, and not to mention the software, they are all top-notch. No, not that kind of a notch, no. The standard Pixel 8 as well, if you want a smaller device, now has much thinner bezels than the 7 did, and it's much more modern looking because of that. One other change on the back is the camera array, with these beautiful big new sensors protected by a pill-shaped glass this time, and I think it looks much better this way, covering the whole thing. The telephoto lens on the 7 Pro always looked like an afterthought to me. And yes, I did say beautiful big new sensors, because all three cameras have either a bigger sensor, a faster lens on it, more resolution, or all of the above. We'll get to that in a moment. And probably the last thing you'll be able to tell from the outside is this new kind of weird looking sensor just under the flash, which is an infrared thermometer out of all things. I guess, sure, why not? It's kind of fun actually to check the surface temperature of different objects, and rumor has it that in the near future it might even work to check your own body's temperature, and yeah, that's pretty handy I suppose if there are more pandemics coming. If you go inside of the device, the Tensor G3 processor is quite an improvement compared to Pixel 6 and 7's processors, which are not exactly known for having the most raw performance out there. If you game or do any kind of image processing, even AI stuff on your phone, you might notice. Otherwise, not so much, as even the older generations are completely capable of handling day-to-day tasks without any hiccups. The battery is now a tiny bit bigger at 5050 milliamps, and the charging speed has been improved as well. 30 watts wired or 23 watts wirelessly. And yeah, it's noticeable and it's nice to have. I don't personally need more than that, but I know last year people were complaining about the 20 and 23 watts charging speeds, so yeah, it's definitely gonna be a welcomed improvement. And I want to mention here that I have been using it on 5G connectivity exclusively at all times, and I haven't seen any massive battery drop or overheating issues. I know it's a concern, I know it's been a concern last year as well and with other phones, but I haven't noticed any issues here. It does get warm, of course, when you use it, but not burning hot, leaving scorch marks on your hand kind of hot. So yeah, I don't see an issue here. And I've been using it on max resolution, so if you lower it a bit, you'll only get better performance out of it. The Bluetooth now worked pretty much flawlessly the entire time, compared to my previous experience on the Pixel 7, which had some very rare but occasional hiccups. The top and bottom firing speakers are really good and better than the Pixel 7 for sure. It also has Wi-Fi 7 now, which is very nice for future-proofing, but I suspect many people's routers at home are a couple of generations behind that. Google also launched the Pixel Watch 2, and I want to do a review on it as well. If you want to see it, please do subscribe in order not to miss it, and if you liked the video so far, don't forget to click like as well. Thank you so much. But of course, let's get to the Pixel's bread and butter, and probably the reason why you're watching this video right now, the cameras. And let me tell you, this is probably the most compelling camera system on any smartphone right now. The main camera sensor is now bigger. That means more light, that means a better image. It's a 50 megapixel sensor, and now you can actually get 50 megapixels photos out of it, compared to last year when it was always downscaled to 12 megapixels. And this is no gimmick, you can actually see a lot more detail and sharpness in the 50 megapixel version. The ultra-wide camera is 48 megapixels, but more importantly than that, I think, is that they claim it has an improved light gathering capability, 105% to be accurate, and I tend to believe them. And now the minimum focus distance is an insanely 2 centimeters, and that is pretty cool. I didn't expect it to like this camera that much, but it was a nice surprise for me, and it opens the door to a whole new world, being able to focus that close and gather all the surface details, the fabrics, the everything. Yeah, pretty cool, impressive. Welcome to macro photography, and yeah, it's quite fun actually to notice textures and patterns that you don't even see with your naked eye. So yeah, quite a lot of fun. And also, it's something that bothered me with the Pixel 7 non-Pro, because the minimum focus distance was not short at all, and it was quite annoying sometimes. On the Pro only, we also get the 5x telephoto lens, which is also 48 megapixels, and that is great news because it means it will get better results than some of its rivals. So yeah. The optical quality of the telephoto lens is actually pretty stunning to me, and it comes in very handy sometimes. For video as well, I find the image quality to be great and stabilization pretty much perfect. I would expect it to suffer a bit in lower light situations, but that is the case with any telephoto lens. And I wouldn't necessarily stop at 5x, even 10x and beyond results are actually pretty decent. If I remember correctly, this was zoomed in at about 15x, and it looks pretty great if you ask me. Google also announced a Zoom Enhance feature only for the Pro, but that is yet to come, and it's also only for the Pro. But yeah, the more features, the merrier, right? On the front, we also have a new camera. It's a 10 megapixel sensor, but it now has autofocus, which is great. And last year, it felt like a very silly omission on Google's part not to put autofocus on the Pixel 7, as all selfies looked a bit out of focus and your background would be perfectly focused. So yeah. With Android 14, we also get the new layout for the camera on the Pixel, and I do like the change. Most of the controls have been moved lower on the screen and are easier to reach now. Only on the Pixel 8 Pro, however, we now get the Pro controls, and that is a very nice capability to have. Essentially, it's manual controls for the ISO, exposure, white balance, etc. Most people out there will never use it, but I guess pros would. But that also brings me to the dark side of what we have here from Google. And it does feel like this time around, Google has been intentionally and artificially limiting the Pixel 8 and even 7 for that matter to only allow some extra features like manual controls, zoom enhance, and some others which we will cover in a minute to justify the higher price on the 8 Pro. In a nutshell, I feel like the video is now looking better than ever on the Pixel. It's hard to put it into words, but I feel like they are doing something right for sure. The colors are great, they're rich but still natural. You can get quite a bit of background blur with the big sensor from the primary camera. So yeah, it's great. They are using some AI magic for sure to relight the scene, bring up some shadows and all that, but it's all done very tastefully, so I don't mind it. It still feels a bit over-sharpened sometimes, but that is the case with every single smartphone I know, basically, and if it bothers you that much, you can adjust it in post. The stabilization works great even in standard mode. I wasn't necessarily walking too carefully or gently, so I don't think I would ever use the sport one. This is more than good enough. Also, it's way easier to vlog on this thing than any camera, big or small, so that's an extra. But what I want to test is that voice enhance feature that it has. So now you're hearing me without, and there's some water behind me. You might be able to hear some kids screaming. So okay, so now we have speech enhancement turned on. I don't know if you can hear me better, if the water on the background is less pronounced. You tell me. Okay, so now I want to test the audio eraser feature. So I'm just gonna talk, and obviously there's all kinds of noises. Okay, so now I want to test the audio eraser feature. So I'm just gonna talk, and obviously there's all kinds of noises on the background again, but we will try to delete those and see how well it does. This will probably be the best camera you'll have with you, unless you carry some several $1,000 dedicated mirrorless camera everywhere you go, then this is the next best thing. Last year they introduced Photo Unblur and Magic Eraser, but this year all the rage is about Best Take, which is a feature that swaps your face, especially in group photos if someone had their eyes closed or a weird face, a grimace, not smiling, you get it. And from what I understood before the release, and I'm pretty sure I wasn't the only one, this was going to be some crazy AI generated version of your face made by the Pixel, and it's totally not that. How this works is you need to take a series of photos, and basically you are then able to pick the version of your face that you like most out of all the pictures, and it's able to stitch together all the pictures into one photo, and everyone gets to have their best face, I guess. So yeah, I am totally fine with this. It's not that kind of weirdness that I was expecting at all. There is also the addition of Magic Editor, and the simplest way I can describe what this is Photoshop at your fingertips, but really easy to use. So you can resize an object or a person, you can move it, you can delete it, and it's all done very easily. But there's a caveat. The image does need to be backed up to Google Images, so it's processed by their servers. So I would say that this might not be an entirely free feature after all, because you might need the Google One subscription for storage. It doesn't work all the time, but when it does, it's scary seamless. They also announced a pretty cool feature for the Android Assistant where it's able to summarize web articles. However, it's only available in the US right now, and this is the error that will appear if you try to do it from anywhere else. But at least you can read it out loud, and the voice is not too robotic at all.
Canon will bring an RF 400mm f/4 duos USM to the lineup in 2024.
There is also AI-generated imagery you can make for wallpapers, and it's integrated into the system, so you don't have to go anywhere else like ChatGPT or Midjourney or any. So it's pretty cool. You can choose some keywords and it will generate images according to what you selected. You have to select like a style, an object, a material, and colors in general. And it can be fun to play with, and obviously it can give you some pretty unique results. Some look better than others, but yeah, some look pretty cool. There's also the Assistant with Bard, which you can think of it like the Google Assistant on AI steroids. I'm not gonna get into it, it's not out yet anyways, but yeah, it will be able to go through your emails, go through your calendar, and summarize stuff for you. It's a bit scary how much reach it can have, but yeah. As noted earlier, the zoom enhance feature will only come to the 8 Pro. Video boost and night sight for video will also come exclusively to the 8 Pro, and what video boost does is it will process your video in a better way using Google's servers, and you will see more dynamic range and better details overall. So it's safe to say that many features are yet to be released, and you really shouldn't buy this phone or any other for promised features in the future. Yeah, don't. Just don't. And this is just a thought of mine that I had, but I just hope it doesn't come to Google turning the Pixel series into a collection of feature gimmicks and AI gimmicks, because it's really not what we need or want, so I hope Google knows that. It's not the case at the moment, I'd say, but I hope we don't get there. But in the end, people care more about real, tangible things, and what I can say to someone who maybe skipped the entire video and just wants the conclusion is that the Pixel 8 Pro has the following things going for it. Google has really stepped up their hardware game for maybe the first time ever. Better battery life, and doesn't get that warm either. It will easily last throughout the day. Great speakers, more than decent performance now, gorgeous and probably the brightest display on the market, arguably the best camera system on any smartphone, and AI features you won't find anywhere else. So if you care about any or all of the above, this really might be the phone for you. Till next time, thanks for watching, see ya!